Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Thursday, August 22nd, and we are going to re-rank Notre Dame's top 25 players. We did it before fall camp started. We told you we were going to rehash it at the end of fall camp. That is what we are going to do today. And Jamie and I were talking before the show. It was a pretty hard exercise, A, because there wasn't a ton of information, and B, I feel like there are a lot of players that rose and they have to drop other players at the expense, or like they have to rise up and other players have to fall on their expense. And it's kind of hard to do that. Like I had like a really difficult time with that with what Notre Dame wide receivers specifically. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about that. We will talk about some things on the Notre Dame or the Irish Sports Daily message board. As far as a prediction that I made on that, people are upset. And then we'll get into a bunch of team talk as well. So thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell soon, whatever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And just a heads up, yesterday I recorded a show with Gig'em 247 beat writer Carter Carl's former South Bend Tribune writer and on the Notre Dame beat. So he came on the show to talk about Texas A&M. A lot of good information, not necessarily on like his thoughts on the game per se, but just a little primer on like what's going on at Texas A&M right now, what's going on with their camp, what's going on with their team. We talked it out. It seems like there's going to be a lot of the same kind of issues for both teams in terms of their weakest point of the team, which is the offensive line, has to go against their opponent's strongest point of the team, which is the defensive line. So that's a good conversation. So you're going to want to look out for that tomorrow. And that is why you got to click the notification bell so whenever it is we are releasing a video. And as always, this show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. It is almost game time, and ESQ has finally restocked all of their bamboo dress shirts, seen on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. And it's made from proprietary fabric that's cooler and softer than cotton. It's the best shirt for any occasion. Go to esqclothing.com. Use ISD15 to get 15% off your order. That's ISD15 to get 15% off. Jamie, you were on a Texas A&M radio show today. How did that go? How was the conversation? Was everyone as impressed with you as we are every day?
Well, I mean, it looks like Vision Poet was impressed. So thanks for that feedback, Vision Poet. I thought it went well. It was great. So Tex Eggs, if people don't know, that's like the biggest Texas A&M site. We're kind of like well, no, we are affiliated with them. Like F5 is the company that owns them. That's also their company, and their big F5's big thing is Tex Eggs. So we have like a relationship with them, like ISD does. So and they got like a bunch of great people that work there, that particularly the recruiting people, that like Christian is super tight with as well. Yeah, I went on the show today, talked, and they asked me questions from like a Texas A&M perspective about Notre Dame. So that's kind of how that went. It was great, and also too, I want to plug a couple other things too, because I did another season preview pod. I think it was like the fourth year in a row that I've done it. It was myself, Eric Hansen from Inside Indy Sports, obviously, who's the longtime SBT beat writer, legendary beat writer. Mike Golick, we were on for the Notre Dame Senior Alumni Show. That's on YouTube. You can find it. You can go into my tweets and find an old thing, or it's on ISD's board as well. You can find it there. And also went on with our buddy Chris Wilson. I know you did a show with Chris Wilson.
That's right.
Too. So on the good old Rakes Report, Chris, our good buddy, I went on, did the the Frosh orientation for talking about the freshmen and the 2024 class. Part one defense, or part one offense, part two defense, going over that. So if people don't know, I assume most of the people here are pretty up and up on a lot of the guys that are freshmen. But if you want to kind of get a better idea of like those freshmen, what guys might play this year, what kind of maybe like future outlook it is, that's something to check out as well.
Yeah, it's a good time. I did I ranked the units with Michael Bryan of 18 Stripes, and I've done that. I think the third straight year we've done that. So it's third or fourth. So it's always a good time to talk to those guys. So check out that. Um, Rob Wozniak puts in the chat. Anyone got a drink recommendation for next week's game? A lot of good in Rex in the chat. We've got Tyler Borgman says cold and wet is a good place to start. And then Jacob Paulus says, I have some Shiner Bach. That way you can crush something from Texas while Notre Dame does the same. Joe Bro says, what's up? Abe Froman, Sausage King of Chicago, says, this is a typo, but Tito's Vodka, another Texas product. And then Jacob Paulus says, even better yet, might break it to my Still Austin single barrel proof bourbon. Bourbon is one of the best words like in the English language. It just sounds delicious. So that's good stuff. Ray John says hello. All right. So on Irish Sports Daily message board, Mike Frank, he sent us an email and says, I want some predictions for the season, right? And so among them, team MVP, offensive MVP, and I think I think one of them was like make a bold prediction about the game. And I thought, I think Notre Dame's going to go 11-1 this year. Just so that's how I went. Like, that's my starting point. Notre Dame's going to lose a game, right? And the thing is when I look at the schedule, like, I don't think there's a team on the schedule that's better than them. So I'm already kind of like, I think Notre Dame's going to some extent play down to their opponent, right? Like, obviously, A&M, they could play well and lose to A&M. I don't think that'll happen. They could play well and lose to Florida State. I don't think that'll happen. But I don't think they're going to lose a game this year where they are fully engaged in it, locked in, the game plan, everyone's focused. Like, I don't think they're going to lose a game like that this year, right? And so I'm picking a game kind of at random because you understand, Jamie, like when you get into like October games and November games, like, so people could be hurt. There are so many things that just like so many variables that we just don't know, right? So I'm projecting something. So I'm picking a loss, and I said they're going to lose the Stanford game. And posters, subscribers, they're not going to lose to Stanford. How could they? The Stanford's terrible. It's like, I don't think Stanford's going to be good. I don't think Notre Dame's like, if you're just telling me like in a vacuum, will Notre Dame lose to Stanford? Like, no, Notre Dame's better than them. They should not lose to Stanford. And I guarantee you the week of the game, I am not going to pick them to lose to Stanford because Notre Dame's better than them. But there is always like, I'm looking at the schedule and it's after the bye. It's after they play Louisville, and it's after those first 4 weeks. Like, if Notre Dame is undefeated in those first 4 weeks, going to the bye, everyone's feeling good, and you come out and you play a 3:30 game against Stanford, crowd isn't going to be all hyped. It's not good. Like, they're not going to be super locked in practice. Like, that's just human nature, and maybe it's a flop performance. And so that's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with Stanford. It has nothing to do with Notre Dame. It's just I'm picking a narrative for the season. And I think if they're 11-1 in that case and they win the rest of their games, they'll comfortably be in the playoffs. And it's fine, right? That's kind of where I'm at with it. Jamie, why don't you tell the people how you came out on the prediction front?
I mean, I predict to 11-1. I just think that like they could easily go 12-0. So as Jay Powder said, they could easily go 12-0. I don't know. I hate the season prediction. I'm just going to be honest with you guys.
Right. I don't like it either. I don't like picking. I like picking a record. I like picking a record. I don't like predicting the games because it's just there's so much that can change.
Yeah, it's so week to week, and someone gets hurt here and there. It's like saying one of the things with the USC game in 2022. It was always going to be a tough game for Notre Dame to win. Anyways, just, with Caleb Williams in his Heisman season, but it's like, well, Cam Hart and Tariq Bracy. And it was like, well, that was going to make it a lot harder, that's just something that that changes the narrative of what it is. And I don't know. I mean, I'm very much of the opinion that Stanford, I don't think they have the talent yet to be good, but they're going to be frisky. So I do think they're frisky.
You love Taylor, the coach.
I think Troy Taylor is a great coach.
Yeah.
He's a really, really good coach. And I think Notre Dame people should root for him to do well enough to get another job.
Yeah.
And somebody else takes it. Because I think he will build it up. And he's a guy, he's just going to be a hard guy to prepare for because he does so many different things on offense. I mean, their defense was trash. And I just imagine their defense is going to be trash too. So that's why I wouldn't pick them to lose that game. But like, I don't know. I just think they'll do some things kind of like they did a little bit last year. They just weren't good enough to sustain anything. And I don't know, like anything can happen in some of these games too, where so think Duke last year too, right? Where they have 3 healthy receivers, right? They have 3 healthy receivers that whole game. And that's just that really, that was it made a huge impact on the game. So it's tournament. And I don't know, like I mean, sorry, Papa Smurf, like Indy could definitely go 12-0. They're just from the talent that they have on the team, there's just and the coaching staff, there's like they could certainly win every game. So there definitely is a way they could go 12-0. I mean, does it also mean that they can't go 10-2 or if things don't break their way and they get a lot of bad luck or 9-3 or whatever, but they definitely could go 12-0. Like that's like just not correct.
They might. They're basically like they are a +3 betting line right now against Texas A&M from being like favored in every game. Like they're going to be favored in every game. So like for the rest of the year, like like if you look at like all of the FEI, FPI, all that stuff, like all the probabilities, they are better than 50% probability to win every other game. So they absolutely could go 12-0. Jay Patterson asked, like, what is the reason for thinking Notre Dame can't go undefeated? So they've gone undefeated before against tougher schedules. I just think the line's going to cost them at some point this year. There's going to be a bad line game, and there's going to be a game where just things don't go right on offense, and I think that's how it's going to be, and I think having this much youth on the line, just generally, I think like Occam's razor, it's going to cost you a game. That's how I view it, broadly, and that's like I mean, I think that's not like a super bold take or anything, like I just think that's kind of where it is. So Papa Smurf, stop. It is not more likely. Like it just isn't. Like math says it's not. Like no, that is not true.
I just sorry because I just want to build on what you were kind of saying because this is Kelly Ford who does these ratings. Like an S&P Plus, he does predictive ratings for what it is, and 9 games, they're above 80%. Win.
Right.
Actually, I mean, 2 other games, they're, to add on top of that, they're 70% and 65%. The one game that's 50-50 is A&M. So, yeah, they definitely could go 12-0. Like, it's just...
yes. 9-3 is not more likely than 12-0. It just isn't.
It's not.
Like, as a matter of fact, it is not. So... I mean, you can have your opinion. Like it's not a prediction that we're making. We're not predicting 12-0. So that's fine. Like but as just you can't just blindly say 9-3 is more likely when it is not.
No, it's just his opinion. That's it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it is. All right, Jamie, is there anything else on the news front, anything that caught your eye that you want to talk about before we get into the re-rankings of the players?
this came out too with the college team talent today, which I'll kind of get
Oh,
into
on 247.
on 247, right?
Got
So
it.
they
Team
had
talent rankings.
the thing that just came out. And interesting that I just want to point out that Notre Dame is 10th in their college team talent with the added up points, right?
Yeah.
That they do. It's based off of raw recruiting rankings, right? So, anyways, but in terms of their average for the guys in the team, they're 5th, which, I mean, I'll have to go back and look at it, but I think that's easily the highest they've ever been in that sense, which is another one of those, like, Mark Truman isn't upgrading the recruiting. Yes, he has upgraded the recruiting. They have more talent on the roster based on recruiting rankings. I mean, yes, there's still a gap between Ohio State, Georgia, et cetera. Yeah, but I'm just, as it is, I think that is notable.
It is notable. And so I think the team talent thing, like is it hard for you, like now, especially in the transfer era, just in terms to evaluate that stuff? Because like it's hard. Like, how do you evaluate the talent? Like, how do you evaluate the addition of someone like Chris Mitchell?
I mean, I do think it is harder to evaluate that part of it. I mean, I will agree that because of that does change some stuff. But I think overall, there just seems to be like it kind of evens out in a way, like where there's going to be guys that are on the roster that are like, man, this guy, I understand he boosts up the team talent composite, but he ain't playing. Like Tosh Baker boosts up the team talent composite, but Xavier Watts was an All-American,
right?
And his is down. So I think it kind of it tends to kind of even out. I just think it's a data point. I don't think it's like I think it's a good way to look at it. Where so A&M is they are the most they're the most talented team on paper that based on the recruiting rankings that that Notre Dame will play this year. But like I think you have to look at all of it. So it's like it's because they have 8 former 5-stars on their thing, but in total they have 51 blue chips, right? So they have 43 other 4-stars. Well, Notre Dame has 58. I mean, they don't have the 5-stars, but I think you can say like it's like one of those things where you could be like, well, Howard Cross, a 6th-year Howard Cross is a 5-star or whatever, right? Like it's just one of those things. So I just think it's and certainly too, like Nick Scourton is probably the best player on their defense, and he didn't have an elite ranking compared to some other guys that he's going to play more than. So it's just I don't know. It's a data point.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the rankings. Jamie, you start 21 to 25. Where do you have Notre Dame's players here?
I have center Ashton Craig at 21. Okay. I have Jaden Thomas at 22. I have tight end Cooper Flanagan at 23. A lot of buzz about him in camp. 24, I have RJ Oben. And 25, I have Rod Hurd.
So, okay, we are going to have a major difference in the RJ Oben ranking. This is okay. That's fine. It's not even that I disagree. I'm just kind of shocked. All right, let's go. Let's start with Cooper Flanagan, because I think he was not on either of our lists to in the preseason. I love me some Cooper Flanagan. All right, so I'm not going to push back on this in any way. Tell listeners why you have inserted him. He has elevated into the top 25.
I mean, obviously, we didn't see enough to say like, oh man, Cooper Flanagan really made a jump. Like say we're like last year, we saw a little bit more in camp, so we were able to see like Holden Stays take a jump, and that was like part of like the buzz for him early in the season. But whenever the coaching staff got a chance to talk about the tight ends, like Cooper Flanagan, it was like, I mean, Gino Gadouli's not the tight ends coach, just brought up Cooper Flanagan and what a great camp he's having. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is notable when you're not even asked about a kid specifically and you bring up how well someone is doing. And I think it's easy to get forgotten because there's so much unknown about Eli Raritan, and there's so much hype about his physical abilities, and certainly he's flashed at times too. And people kind of expect like him to be the kind of take the next step, right? Kind of take the next step and be that guy, maybe even push Mitchell Evans, right? But that's kind of ignoring that, like, oh yeah, Cooper Flanagan, like he came in as a true freshman, and there's like him caking guys on running plays, which is not something you see from a tight end, let alone a true freshman tight end. So I think he's going to be a good blocker, and he's a good athlete too. He is a monster. He's a huge kid. So I mean, he's going to be an NFL player too. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, it's maybe Eli Raritan ends up having a better year than him, but I would say that as of right now, kind of heading into the season, it sure does sound like Cooper Flanagan is tight end 2, or at least like even.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's just like a buzz thing. It's just you start to hear things, and this is where it gets like this could be. And I kind of feel the same way. Like we've heard a lot more about Flanagan than we have Raritan, and so I had Raritan in my top 25 before, and I don't anymore. And I think it's just because, just like you said, you hear the buzz, and this could be like completely off. Like Eli Raritan could go against the Texas A&M and just have like a big role, and it's just like incorrect. But just like we've been hearing this about Cooper Flanagan, and it's just like a good thing, right? Like, and I think he was very impressive last year. When he was able to get in the game, I think he was a good blocker. I think he's a good route runner. I think he's not anything like special in terms of size, in terms of athleticism, in terms of athletic ability, or like I just said athleticism, right? Like route running. It just, he has no great special quality, but like he's just really good, and every time he's in the game, he's doing the right thing and he's making plays, and that's what you want, right? And that's what makes for a good player. So I'll go into my top 25. Hold on 1 second, sir. We are going to not do that. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going into my top 25, 21 to 25. Adon Schuler at 21, Ashton Craig 22, KVA 23, Jalen Sneed 24, Jaden Thomas 25. Adon Schuler, I had Faison in the top 10 in my first. Not Faison, Hurd in the top 10 in my original rankings. He's dropped out, not necessarily because I think he's like a good player or whatever, or like a bad player. It's just that like Adon Schuler's, he passed him. It just seems like he passed him. He's running with the first team. I think they're going to share reps. I don't think Rod Hurd's going to take as many like of those first team reps that I thought. I think he might be the third safety instead of Adon Schuler, which is fine. But I also like, it was more of an upside projection play with Hurd, and I think Schuler at 21 makes a lot more sense. I had Craig around here. KVA, I think this one could be just wrong. Just like he could be too low, honestly. Like listening to you talk about him on the show, he could be too low. And Jalen Sneed is more of a this he also could be too low. Like the linebackers are very difficult, just straight up. Not sure where to include all of them. But it's just it's kind of like a snap count numbers thing. And Jaden Thomas, he's the fourth wide receiver. And I think he's the fifth wide receiver. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he's the fifth wide receiver to make the top 25, which is
wow, you have 5. Okay.
I have 5. Yes. Which is good, right? Good for the wideouts. B, it's just, again, it's an opportunity problem that I think he might have. And so that's why I slot him. But I still think he's a good football player, right? Like, it's not, I'm not saying anything bad about Jaden Thomas. It's just that I obviously have Bo Collins pretty high on this list. And so, that's where, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Any comments on those picks there?
No, I think like we kind of said before, it's hard to kind of could be like a lot of fluctuation there.
Yeah.
With a lot of these guys, but I'll just say one thing, like I had Snead very high.
Oh,
I have
okay.
Snead very high. I've Snead very high, and I would say like Schuler and KVA are on my list. They're in the next group, so, but I mean, I'll say Snead, he's in another group. So I'm very high on Jalen Snead, and I think we'll get into it when we get to it.
Yeah. Well, Water Walker 06 says, I get that, but the same can be easily said about KVA at 23. It could be said, right? And like this is why it was difficult, because it's just, we've heard things and we haven't seen things, and so we're trying to project what we've heard onto the season and contributions on like a game-to-game basis. That's what made this very, very difficult. So James, 16 to 20. Let's hear it.
16, I have 8 on Schuler.
Okay.
17, I have JD Price. 18, I have Bo Collins. 19, that's where I have KVA.
Okay.
20, I have Drake Bowen.
All right. Let's hear it.
Well, I think like, yes, the linebacker is extremely hard when you're not really getting an idea of like how it's going to shake out, and really it is going to probably fluctuate quite a bit. And I had Bowen obviously a lot higher heading into camp, but I still think he's going to play a ton and all that. I just don't know how it's all going to work out in terms of snap counts. I do think he's going to be like a pretty good player for Notre Dame, and be a pretty big contributor this year. I just aren't quite sure there, like, how many snaps. The only thing I feel like super confident on is like Jack Kaiser. Like he's going to play a ton.
Yeah.
Right? So, and KVA, I'm just super duper high on him. And I just believe, and it's kind of some stuff I've heard too. Like, I think he's going to eventually start. Like he's going to be a starter at some point during the season, and just keep, rising up. And then literally anytime a coach or a player talks about him, whether in a media setting or any kind of other kind of source you're kind of hearing from something, it is like beyond glowing for a freshman. And I think he's going to like factor into like third down and stuff too. So that's why had him like Bo Collins. I mean, it's all projection picks, Brandon Renshaw.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is what we're all talking about. Like,
I think with projection, what we mean by that is like, we can't guarantee the snaps. That's the only thing, right? But Jamie's taken a leap. He's just taken a leap on like what he's heard. Like this is the same thing. Like I did this like with Bo Collins. I mean, you see my ranking for Bo Collins. Like I'm kind of doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just when we haven't seen it, we haven't seen a full practice. Like you talked about. Okay, you talked about.
Or I saw the very first day. I was there the first day, full practice. But like so much has changed.
Yeah, so much has changed. And like the like when you saw Ben Morrison, like you saw a full practice of him like late in camp his freshman year. And that's how you knew, like, hey, they like him. Like they're gonna play him a lot, right? And I don't know, I don't know what the top 25 was then, but like it just like that informs how you feel. Like I don't really know what the wide receiver rotation might be. I don't. Like, so it's just we don't really know what the linebacker rotation might be. You're making an educated guess there. And that's all we're doing. We're making an educated guess. Like me having Bowen where he is versus KVA versus Snead. We like all those guys. We like all of them. It's just trying to figure out how much someone's going to play. Excuse me, Jim.
Yeah, and I would just say too, like the depth is why the depth of the team makes it hard. That's what makes it hard because
Yeah.
it's like, well, this guy's a good player. I want to have him up more. And it's like, well, it's just hard. It's like I was going through it, and I mean, I don't know. JD Price could rush for 900 yards this year.
Mm.
And if he does, he's probably a top 10 guy on the team. Like, but I just, I honestly, I was going through it and I was like, oh crap, I got to put in JD Price. Like, that's kind of how it was going for me. And like with Schuler, I think the fact that he's like, had a great camp and kind of building on it, and, he's been making plays and he made plays in the spring. I just really like him physically and think that kind of being a young, talented guy, but being surrounded by a bunch of veteran guys, I think is going to help him too. And I just think he's going to be a good player. And and a lot of it too is like I was just high on him coming into Notre Dame too. And I just and now that he's already taken this step, I think he's going to have a great year. And I think with Bo Collins, I think I thought about putting him in like the top 10, to be honest. And I just was like, I'm just going to keep it here for now. And I mean, I might be wrong, and he could be wide receiver 1. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. My 16 to 20, Jordan Clark at 16. The thing about him is I think his snaps are pretty guaranteed. And so I think he's got to be up there. I had Drake Bowen at 17, just in that he's going to be the starting Mike. So, and I think he's going to play well. And so it's kind of hard. Like I think this is either just right, or it's like, I don't think he'll be like higher than this, I think it's either just right or it's way too high because KVA is going to take a lot of those snaps. But Tahoe makes it this time for me. You've sold me on him. And I have Traore at 20, obviously his backup, right? So I feel like those guys are just going to be interchangeable. They're both going to have a big season. I got Chris Mitchell at 19, Notre Dame's 4th receiver for me on the list. I think he's going to have his moments, right? And I think that, I'm projecting too much maybe on Notre Dame releasing the social media stuff, but just the fact that he's connected with Riley Leonard on multiple deep balls in camp, I like to see that. Like, I like to see that those two are connecting, especially in those like kind of, team-like settings, right? Like he's beating like Jaden Mickey and he's beating Christian Gray, right? Those are good football players. So I just kind of like it from those guys. I like to see that. And like, again, I think Jordan Clark is one where I feel super confident in him, more so than maybe like any other player, because again, the snaps are guaranteed. At least any other player thus far. Feel really good about where he's at. Any thoughts here from you, Jim?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I mean, I had Clark and Mitchell were my 26 and 27. That's so like I didn't have them here, but it was more of like it wasn't anything like against them or whatever. I just kind of was looking at it, and it is more of like kind of betting on some of these other guys to be good. You're like, because I do think Jordan Clark is going to, yes, he's going to start at nickel. I think he's going to be pretty good. I just think that I'm kind of betting on some of these other guys to have like bigger years. And
bigger years
with Mitchell, I just was uncertain about, because I think part of it is that even though, you haven't heard a bunch of stuff about Jordan Faison on this camp, I'm still just based on what I saw last year and everything. Like, I do think he is going to be a pretty important player for Notre Dame. And I just decided to be like, well, I think I'm going to kind of have Faison above him. And because of that, Mitchell's going to play, and I know he's going to help, but I just wasn't quite sure. And then really, for me, it was like a pick between putting like Jaden Thomas or Chris Mitchell in my like bottom thing there. And I just decided to go with Thomas. So.
Got it. All right. Jamie, 11 to 15.
11, I have Billy Schrauth. 12th, I have Jalen Sneed. 13th, Jordan Botello. 14th, Boubacar. 15th, Faison.
Boubacar, Traore. So you have Botelho and Boubacar basically in tandem, but similar to myself.
Yeah.
Tell me about, just real quick, tell me about Faison, because I meant this up. Tell me about Faison, because I put him very close to where you did ultimately, but this is one of those deals where, like, man, do I have this right? Like, because I feel like we've seen him out there, that there hasn't been a ton of talk about him from in my opinion. There hasn't been negative talk. There just it hasn't really been anything. It's just like, oh yeah, Jordan Faison, right? So I'm curious, have you heard more than me on that? I mean, I don't know how you could have, because I hear things from you, but I you know what I mean? Like, how do you project him, kind of?
It's really all based on just kind of what I've seen, and just like,
Yeah.
I just think when he's gonna get the ball. I mean, I've heard he's been good after the catch, like, which
Okay.
I'm like, that's not surprising at all, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, because I do think like he could go down and be like, man, this guy's the top playmaker at wide receiver this year. Like, I think that's kind of like the ceiling for him. Or man, this is a guy who's kind of like has that a little bit like a Tyree year last year, maybe slightly better or something like that, right? So that's where I kind of you know, have him. That's why I kind of have him there and kind of think of him in that way. Um, but and I also think like I wasn't sure if he's going to be the punt returner, but based on what I saw last year, I'm like, I hope he's the punt returner, because I think he's going to be good. But I don't know, like, I mean, how is he catching the ball when, in camp and all that kind of stuff? So um, I'm I am really, like, to me, he's very much a wild card. And like, he could jump up really high. And
Yeah.
I'm he's the, maybe on offense, the guy that I'm like the most curious about in this Texas A&M game. Like, that
Mm.
I really just kind of really I mean, outside of the offensive line, like, that I
Yeah.
really want to see and just kind of see what he can do. And like, I think Botello, I wanted to give Botello and have him above Traore, because I think I mean, he is going to start a Viper,
Yeah.
and I do think, uh, I just think he is going to have a much better year than he had last year and be like productive and all that. So kind of wanted to reward him for all the kind of stuff that I saw and then heard about him in camp. And then Traore, like, I just had a tough time here, because I was like, man, he could be like one of the most impactful guys on the team in terms of like his third down pass rush.
Mhm.
But just I just decided to keep kind of Botello in front of him, so that's why I had him where he is. But I do think he's going to play a big factor. And the big thing why I had Snead here is, one, what Max Bulla has said about him. Um, just in terms of like the jump that he's made since he's like started working with him, the jump that he's made from like uh last year to this year, that say he said he's gonna have a big year. Um the fact that he's someone that Marcus Freeman pointed out, it was like he named two guys in the pass rush. He made Traore and Snead. And Snead is going to play on third down. So he is definitely going to have that part of it. He is
Yeah.
going to be in the sub packages. And I it sure sounds like he's done enough to at least be in the mix. If he's like not a starter at linebacker, it sure sounds like he's like the next guy in. Or they're going to play Texas A&M next week, obviously, and that's going to be a lot of three linebacker stuff, because they're going to go two tight ends a lot, and I think he's going to be out in the field for that. Like, so just everything I heard about kind of like the switch turn on, he is just a freak athlete. And we've seen it before with a guy like Jeremiah Wosu-Koromoa,
Hmm.
where it just wasn't there, and then it was, and we just saw, because his athletic ceiling was so special, and he did so many things that he could do. And I'm not saying he's in for, like, he's gonna have a JOK kind of year. That would be, I mean, that would be amazing if he did. But I just think he is going to be a playmaker, and someone, because of his presence on third down and that value. Um, that's why I like waited. I have him here. I mean, I easily could have put him like, I don't know, 15th, 16th, 17th, or whatever. I just was like, he just became the guy that I was like, I'm that's my bold pick, that I'm gonna put Snead there. And then Shrouth. I mean, Shrouth, I really wanted to put in the top 10, but I was like,
Hmm.
man, I don't know how I'm gonna take any of these other guys out of the top 10. It's a pretty good list. So that's kind of why I have there. I mean, obviously, I think Shrouth is gonna have a really good year.
You're almost like, I mean, it's bold to have Snead 12, but if you describing what you're describing, you're almost like it's almost too low. Like you're almost hedging at 12. I mean, what you're describing is a top 10 player on any team, you know, just in terms of the disruption, right? Like you're
Yeah.
talking about like an ultimate disruptor, right? Like Jordan Clark, right? Like someone like him, like he's gonna like have a, if someone came in and played his role, like Thomas Harper, right? Like he, I think if Jordan Clark turned out exactly like Thomas Harper, right? You take it 100 times, like 10 times out of 10, right?
Yeah.
But like not like the just the disruption and the what that means to from as a game record standpoint. Like it just, the ceiling isn't as high. Snead, like you're talking about like the ultimate game record type, right? Like that's what JOK was. And so, to me, you're being almost conservative, right? So, which isn't like a criticism. I'm just making a point. It's just like what you're describing is a very, very valuable football player. So look, we will monitor that going forward. That's very exciting. My 11 to 15. I have Jack Kaiser at 11. I have Bo Collins at 12. Great House 13. Faison 14. And so basically, I view all these wide receivers as kind of Collins, Greathouse, and Faison. I view them all kind of as the same guy, essentially. I think that we will view Collins at the end of the year as their best receiver, because I think that he will do the thing that they most need, which is win on the boundary and win those like back shoulder, like kind of he'll have the most big time important plays for Notre Dame at wide receiver this year. And that's kind of that, again, that is a total projection on my part. Just tea leaf reading and what any offense wants, right? I think that he has what every OC wants, what every quarterback wants, what every wide receiver coach wants. And I just think that's where it's going to end up. And I wanted to rank it in a way where it's like, look, I'm not even really saying he's better than Greathouse and or Faison. I just think there's something there that those other guys don't have. To be honest, if I was re-ranking this, I would have put Shrouth at 12 and just moved the rest of them back one spot, just because he's starting every game at right guard. If he's their best offensive lineman, that's probably better. I think Notre Dame's best offensive lineman will be better than Notre Dame's best wide receiver this year. But whatever. Like I didn't want to change it like at the last minute. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But that's kind of how I view it. Jamie, your thoughts on that?
I like having those guys in the group together, like the receivers, because I think that's kind of the way to do it. I think that's probably the smartest way, and maybe I'm because I haven't had Jaden Greathouse yet, and he's in my top 10. Well, he's 10th, so spoiler alert. So, but I think it's one of those things, like it's one of those things that I just kind of feel like it is so undetermined of like where the pecking order is going to be. So it's just like, and how good everyone is going to be. So that's what kind of makes it tough there.
Mhm.
Like, because I think they all could be pretty good. I just don't know how good.
Yeah. Jamie, 6 through 10. Let's hear it.
Well, 10th, I have Great House.
No, 6 first.
Oh, 6. Sorry, my bad.
No, it's all good.
6, I have Mitchell Evans.
Okay.
Which, I mean, that's lower than I had him.
I also have Evans 6, by the way.
But I think the top 5 are all pretty good. So it was just very tough. Very tough to keep him out of the top 5. But
Yeah.
I had him 6th. I had Kaiser 7th.
Okay.
Christian Gray 8th. Riley Mills 9th. Great House 10th.
Okay. So we have Evans and Gray the same rank. That is so. Evans is Gray isn't a like a huge riser. Like I think I had him 13th last time, but like to go from 13 like into the top 10 is pretty big deal. So we can talk about that. Evans, so you dropped him a little bit. Is it just based on, like, to me, I dropped Evans, like, this is a spoiler alert, I dropped him one spot. It's just because the way they're talking about him, it's like, is he all the way back? Like, is he actually ready to?
Well, yeah, no, I think the way they're talking about him is that it's very obvious he's going to play and contribute immediately.
Yeah.
It's just not obvious if they said, hey, Mitch, like, you're playing 60 snaps this game. Like, that does not sound to me like that's, and maybe they're getting him to that point or whatever, but I guess that I guess that when it's a third down, Mitchell Evans is going to be on the field. But which is another reason too, I wanted to have a second tight end on it, because it was like,
yeah,
I think maybe for the first few weeks, he's going to play 30 to 40 snaps because that's what they say that they want out of it or something like that, rather than him playing the full game. And if you're going to do that, you're going to get less, you're going to get less opportunities. So that's really the only reason that I put him down, because because it's just so close. Like the top 5 guys are they're really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have Evans 6, Riley Mills 7, Christian Gray 8, RJ Oben 9, Jadarian Price 10. I think it's kind of like what you said about Price. Like, I think he's going to be very, very important player for Notre Dame. Like, we're talking like 125 to 150 carries. And it's just like, I think they're going to give him the ball a ton. And I think a lot of the stuff with Love is like the receiving aspect, right? Which Price may not be as involved, but he's just going to be a huge part of the offense. And I think the offense is going to do really well this year. And so I think he's going to be a major part of it. The RJ Oben thing, I wanted to drop him, but I didn't know. First of all, I did drop him a little bit. So there's that. But I just didn't. That was like, because what am I going to do with Josh Burnham then? Like, this is one where I truly don't know. And I just think RJ Oben's going to be an important player from a pass rush standpoint on a game-to-game basis. And I'm confident in that. I'm not confident in any of the Burnham stuff, which is to say I don't have the information. And so this is the one where I could just be completely wrong. Like you had, like, this is why I was like, wow, like I feel very out of pocket with my RJ Oben pick, or not pick ranking, because I wasn't sure, but because I'm not sure, I just want to lean on the fact that, like, I think he's going to have a big year. I think it's a huge year for him personally. Like he is at Notre Dame because he wants to boost his draft stock and he wants to be a high draft pick, right? Or at least a draft pick in the NFL. And I think he's motivated. I think the fact that Josh Burnham is pushing him from behind, I think that is a motivating thing for him. And so that's kind of where I'm at with RJ Oben. I think Christian Gray is going to be an absolute star. He's going to be like a breakout national kind of player for Notre Dame. I picked him on the site. I picked him to lead the team in interceptions. I picked him as newcomer of the year, even though he played last year, but he never started. Like he's now in his frontline starting role. He's going to be big time. He has everything you want. He has length. He has athleticism. He has the attitude. He's tough. He can turn and run. It's just he's got it, man. And I'm super excited about Christian Gray. And I brought in Riley Mills. Look they named him captain, Jamie. He's ready to go. It's going to be 2021 Virginia in like 6 or 7 games this year. I'm so excited.
I'm shocked after you just randomly went off on him in our group text the other day. No, I knew you were just joking around, but I mean, I completely concur with Gray. Like I do think he's gonna have a monster year, and I'm just a big believer in his talent. And I do think this is like one of these things where all of a sudden they're like, oh, they got Ben Morrison and this other guy. Like I think that is going to happen this year. And for me with Oben, I just really didn't like how they were kind of talking about him in terms of like he's getting there, like in terms of like his development as like an every down guy. And I mean certainly with JJB, like I don't think it wasn't quite the same message with JJB. And then JJB, I think, really kind of surprised everyone with how really great he played against the run and everything last year, because he was known very similar to RJ Oben as more of a pass rush guy. And I do think Oben, because I still think he's going to play on third down and like be like a factor for Notre Dame. He's a good pass rusher. He's a very good pass rusher. But I am worried about like, Burnham either like splitting snaps or maybe even like playing just a little bit more than him at some point. And I am like, I've always been a big Josh Burnham fan. Like I do think that he's going to be a good player, and like I love his work ethic, and like I mean, they just rave about him. Like he is one of those guys that like if he gets his level of play to a certain point, like it sure sounds like he'll be a captain for Notre Dame at some day. Like they really, really kind of gush about like how hard he's worked and how much time he's put in, especially right because he came in as a linebacker too. So, but yeah, it's just because of that. Like, and I already had some questions about him as a run defender, so I'm very much wait and see in that part of it. Because you're probably going to play some certain teams that are going to try to run the ball more. And then I think if that's the case too, I think Burnham is a better run defender than him. So that's kind of where I see it. And I definitely have no issue with Price being this high. Cause like I said, like, I think he easily could be just have a monster year.
Yeah. All right, we're getting into the top 5, the cream of the crop of the Notre Dame football team. And so we also have the cream of the crop of media companies that we want to talk to you about, which is VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadwazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jamie, 1 through 5. Let's go.
I mean, I went Benjamin Morrison at 1. I went Howard Cross at 2. I went Riley Leonard at 3. I went Jeremiah Love 4th and X
Wow.
Watts 5th. Which, I mean, it's crazy to be like X Watts, All American, year 5th, but I think it's just more of like I would say if we were really gonna put it in tiers, I think it's 6 and then the next tier of guys
Mm.
to me. Like that's how I would put it. So like I would include Evans with this group, and you could mix and match it however you want. I would have no qualms about
Yeah.
how anyone wanted to rank any of these guys in a different way. You could make an argument certainly for all of these things, but I just, man, the Jeremiah Love buzz, it's just like, it's very real. It is very real. And just also too, like he, I think is going to be a big time playmaker, a big time playmaker. And yeah, the Xavier Watts disrespect. I mean, Greg, where do you have Watts?
I have him third.
I
I have him
mean,
third.
you have the Bednarik Award winner third. Just talk about disrespect.
Well,
It's
I
like,
mean,
no, you know what I mean. It's like one of those things. It's like you could say anything. You could say, but like Howard Cross is 4th. Get out of here. It's like everyone really, and I know Brenda's just joking around, but like it is really tough because I think all of these guys are at that level. And I don't know if that's why you have Cross 4th, because it was like, he had the hammy, so kind of whatever. But like it's pretty obvious that it's like he is a key player for Notre Dame, and like all those guys are key players, and it's just it's it's a really good group. It's a really good group
yeah.
of that top 6 there.
Yeah, like I think the way I look at it is, so that's your top 5. I mean, I had mine up by accident, but this is my top 5. Morrison 1, Leonard 2, Watts 3, Cross 4, Jeremiah Love 5. I have this group as, I mean, not so much Riley Leonard because there's only one position for a quarterback, right? So you're only picking 3, but like I kind of think like Riley Leonard. I mean, look, I think he's going to rush for 1,000 yards. Like I put it on the site, I put on the thing. Like I think he's going to have a huge year. Like just numbers wise, like he plays in an offense that lends itself to that, right? And if Notre Dame's going to be 11-1 and he's having a huge year, like the Notre Dame quarterback's going to get a lot of credit for that. And so I think all of these guys, to my point, is I think these are all like all-American candidates. Like I think Morrison and Watts are going to be first-team All-Americans again. I just do. And I think Riley Leonard, I think it's different when you're the quarterback, like you're responsible for so much on any football team. Like the 8th best quarterback in college football can be better than the 2nd best safety in football. You know what I mean? Like, because just the nature of the position.
And like numbers it's very numbers
right.
driven. And I mean, you could have the guy who's the 2nd team all ACC be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. Like it's just, yeah.
So I just think Howard Cross, like just there's just little talk. There's talk about it, and I don't like it. And I don't like it in the way that it's like, you know what? I'm dropping you down a spot. You're behind Watts now, right? Like that's kind of how I view it. The Jeremiah Love thing, like he could be like an all-purpose, like you know how they have the all-purpose guy for all-American teams. Like he could be on this, like he could be on that, like 2nd team or something like that. It, like you said, just the talk about him. They're not just the talk, but like he just seems hungry for it. He seems to want it, right? And just like, man, when you start hearing like stuff about that and how his mindset and how hard he works and how they want to use him, and it's just, as football guys, it gives you that love and feeling about a player. So it's good. And I'm, you know what, Jamie, I'm excited. Very piratey. Our boy Brendan asks, Watts at 5 speaks to the level of talent. How many years in the last 15 is he number 1? I I mean, I think a better way to put it is how many years do we feel like the top 5 could all be on All-American teams?
Yeah, and I don't think that's very many years,
Like,
to
I
be
think
honest.
that's kind of where it is. I mean,
Or
look,
6 because, Evans could
Evans,
be all
exactly,
yeah.
like 6. I think Mitchell Evans, like, he's an All-American candidate for sure. Like, he could be a second team tight end. He could be first team tight end for all we know. Like, that's the kind of talent that Notre Dame has this year. And look, it's just that the big question is the line. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the question. And it's a big one, right? Obviously, it's huge. So it's just like that's kind of where it is. It's just it's Notre Dame's got to figure that out, and if they do, they're a darn good football team. And so, very exciting time, Jamie. Anything else before we wrap it up for the day? Anything from you?
No, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Next week, game week.
Yeah,
It's gonna be awesome. Monday, look out. I'll have a scouting report out on Texas A&M. So everyone keep an eye out for that. I mean, I've been chipping away at that for a long time, so that's gonna be cool to check out. Everyone kind of get. I mean, I've been writing about Texas A&M for months, anyways, but
yeah,
people have a better idea. I think I do a pretty good job of like deep diving on the personnel. If people want to kind of know a little bit more about that, so it'll be. I just can't wait to. Man, I like. Let's play football. I want to
yeah.
see it. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
The time is nigh, Jamie. It is here. It is very exciting. We're getting, like we said, you're getting into game week stuff. Next week we get into the full send, right? We do our Tuesday show, Thursday show, Saturday post game, Sunday morning after recap, and then on and on. It's going to be awesome. Love football season. Coach Humph says A&M has a 6'6" wide receiver, something to watch out for. Noah Thomas. This is a good opportunity to plug my conversation with Carter Carls that I'm going to release tomorrow morning. He talks about A&M's wide receivers, what he calls a concern for them, right? So that part to me was one of the more, I don't want to say eye-opening parts of the conversation, just the way that he talked about their skill positions at large. It's a big question mark for Texas A&M. So that's going to be something to watch out for. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell soon, whenever it is we are going live or when we are releasing a video. Got my conversation with Carter coming tomorrow, and Jamie and I will be back next week for game prep. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.